Lou, thank you very much for joining Energy Live News. I would like to start in discussing with you regarding the wearable device that you have developed. You are the lead researcher of this project, a wearable device that can not only generate small amount of electricity when a person's finger sweats or presses on it, but also can do so if the user is asleep or it's sits still. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it works?
So the general working mechanism of this energy harvester we developed is based on enzymatic biofuel cells. Enzymatic biofuel cells are in general fuel cells with enzymes as the catalyst. So we have a quite good amount of sweat from our fingertips. And this device, what it does is to harvest the limited amount of sweat coming off the fingertip. And then within the sweat, we have a significant amount of lactate. And in the biofuel cell, we have lactate oxidase as the enzyme. And the enzyme can break down, can oxidize lactate into pyruvate, and the oxidation reaction will generate current flow. The current flow can be harvested, and then that energy can be used to power other electronics.
What makes this device so unique and makes it different than any other device that is sweat fueled?
So in general, we have been working on sweat-based energy harvesting using biofuel cell for almost a decade, starting in 2012, I think. At that time, our research group under Professor Joseph Wang have developed these sweat-based wearable biofuel cell for energy harvesting. However, in the past decade, most of the wearable energy harvesting not only for biofuel cells, but also for a lot of motion-based energy harvesters like turboelectric generators or piezoelectric generators are all requiring the user to engage in very vigorous movements, either exercise that is enough to induce heavy amount of sweat, or at least some movement with a high frequency or high intensity. And all of those require a heavy amount of investment as in mechanical energy input. And that would be really impractical for a user. You don't want to exercise all the time, which consumes few hundred watt of energy, only to generate a few milliwatt of energy. So we want to address this issue. We want to be able to harvest energy on demand all the time from your body without you needing to engage in constant movement, which is really inconvenient. So we come across of this phenomena of the high sweat rate, passive sweat rate, or natural sweat rate on the fingertip. We probably are not really aware of the fingertip having high sweat rate. That's because usually your hand is well ventilated, so the sweat is evaporated as soon as it comes out. But actually, your hand has a really high density of sweat gland, and then even during sitting around or sleeping, your hand is generating a lot of sweat. So we developed these new biofuel cell using very flexible, porous carbon nanotube-based foam that is very hydrophilic, so it can absorb the sweat, and because of it's a 3D electrode, it can fully engage in the enzymatic catalytic reaction with the limited amount of sweat. On top of the electrode, we also developed a highly porous and water-absorbing hydrogel. So that porous hydrogel is like a media between the finger and the electrode. It can constantly bring down the sweat from the finger as soon as it comes out of your sweat glands. So unlike other biofuel cells, this biofuel cell we developed on the fingertip can constantly absorb sweat from your fingertip without needing to exercise. And because of these new materials we developed, this new biofuel cell is really optimized for low amount of sweat to generate good amount of energy without any mechanical energy input.
The truth is that it sounds that like it is part of a matrix film or like our fingertip can be the real powerhouse for our devices. How many hours of sleep are needed to charge a mobile phone or any other device?
So in this work, we demonstrated the power of around 20 to 40 micro watt per centimeter square because we have limited amount of area on our hands. In general, we are envisioning maybe the energy collection of up to a few milliwatts, up to maybe 10 milliwatt from your hand. But that level of energy is not yet good for charging mobile devices that has a large screen and have really advanced functionalities. So it will take a very long time, honestly, to charge mobile phones, which have batteries that are around 10 watt hours, where your energy input is only about a few milliwatt. What we envision this power source is used for is for a lot of miniaturized wearable sensors, which we demonstrated in our work of some wearable vitamin C sensor or sodium sensor. All of these sensors, they don't require a huge screen with high resolution to run, doesn't require Wi-Fi connection, doesn't require high speed computation. What it does instead is relying on a simple microcontroller, maybe sometimes a small low power display, like we demonstrated in this work, a small electrochromic display, or maybe sending out the data out through Bluetooth, which is lower energy consumption. So those electronics can be very easily powered by these finger-based biofuel cell, or some common small gadgets like wristwatch, calculators, or maybe a thermometer. Those can be also powered by this level of power harvested from your fingertips.
When do you expect to see this project on the market?
Actually, a lot of people ask the same question. The real answer is that I think it still needs several years. There are still a few things we need to improve. One is the power. We still see a lot of room for improving the power. From now, about tens of microwatt, we already have more progress to bring it up to even hundreds of microwatts already, and even potentially higher in the future. And the stability of the biofuel cell, we demonstrated for over a week of continuous operation, it will be fine. But for consumer use, maybe people wish to have it running for months, even for years. So those are some more significant challenges for us to work on. The other challenge, which I think is actually more practical, is that most of the electrical engineers are reluctant on adapting these new power source. It runs on different voltage. It requires different circuit design, and they are more leaning towards just using a coin cell. What we are doing in our lab is to develop the entire ecosystem, not only the energy harvester, but also the energy storage devices like supercapacitors and batteries that are flexible and wearable, as well as the sensors that are non-invasive, flexible, stretchable, and conformal to your body. All of these can be an entire system that is self-sustainable energy-wise. And I think there needs to be someone or some company that works out a product that include everything into a market viable product that consumers will be interested in, rather than just developing one part of it and trying to force it onto some existing technology. I think it's more realistic actually to starting from scratch to develop a new system based on wearable tech altogether.